In a world that feels more connected than ever, why do so many of us feel so alone? It's a huge paradox, right? Well, today we're going to deconstruct it. We're going to pull together some powerful wisdom from thinkers like Simon Sinek and Jordan Peterson, and we'll even look at the mindset of a champion like Roger Federer. The goal? To build a practical framework for a life filled with deep connection, genuine happiness, and, well, unwavering principle. So let's start with this quote from Simon Sinek, because it really forces you to stop and think. It's such an uncomfortable truth. We tend to think of loneliness as this thing that just happens to us. But what if it's something we've actually built? What if the very structure of our modern lives, our long commutes, our endless scrolling, our career paths, are really just architectural plans for isolation? That right there, that's the core problem we're going to tackle. Alright, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to diagnose the problem itself, what we're calling the loneliness epidemic. Then we'll start building the solution pillar by pillar. The first one is all about forging radical connections. The second is about learning to architect happiness instead of just chasing it. And the third will ground everything in principled action. And then we'll wrap it all up with a really powerful idea from one of the greatest athletes in the world. You know, it really is the great paradox of our time. We can have thousands of friends online, but when a real crisis hits, who do you actually call? And this isn't just a feeling, it's a genuine public health crisis. Studies show that loneliness can be as damaging to our physical health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's a direct path to anxiety, to depression, to addiction. But the antidote, it isn't some new app or technology, it's actually something ancient. And this cuts right to the very heart of the solution. We're all kind of obsessed with biohacking and optimizing our lives, right? But the source material for this whole explainer argues we're missing the most powerful tool we have. This single greatest lever for our health, our longevity, our ability to bounce back from anything. It isn't in a pill, it's not in an app, it's found in the messy, beautiful, and profound commitment of a true friendship. So that brings us to our first pillar, radical connection. Now, this is not about networking. It's not about upping your follower count. This is a fundamental shift in how we see and how we practice our relationships. It's about moving from a transactional mindset to a totally transformational one. And here we have this powerful reframing of what a true friend really is. Look, we all have those foul weather friends, right? The ones who show up when we're in a ditch. And that's great. But Sinek and Peterson propose a much harder and maybe a much truer test. Who can you call when you get that big promotion? Who can you tell about your greatest triumph, knowing that their joy is going to be as pure and as genuine as your own? That person, that's the friend you build your life around. So how do we actually cultivate these kinds of connections? Well, it boils down to 3 practices. First up, intentionality. You've got to treat a coffee with a friend with the same seriousness as a board meeting. Put it in the calendar, don't flake. Second is service. Sinek points out the genius of AA's 12th step. To stay sober, you have to help another alcoholic. The path to solving your own problems is so often paved by helping a friend with theirs. And finally, reciprocity. As Peterson warns, you have to surround yourself with people who are aiming up, people who truly want the best for you, because the alternative will do nothing but drag you down. All right, our second pillar is a pretty radical idea, architected happiness. Arthur Brooks argues that we've got it completely backward. See, happiness isn't this fleeting feeling you chase after. It's a structure, it's something you build. And just like any good architect, you need to know what your building materials are. According to Brooks, these are the 3 macronutrients of a happy life. You've got enjoyment, and that's not just mindless pleasure. Think about that incredible meal you shared with friends, the one you still talk about. The memory is part of the joy. Then there's satisfaction. This isn't the easy win. It's that feeling of accomplishment after a grueling hike. It's the joy that comes after the struggle. And finally, purpose. That's the why that gets you out of bed in the morning. It's the North Star that guides all your decisions. Let's dig into that idea of satisfaction for a second. The world is constantly screaming one formula at us. Have more. A bigger house, a faster car, the newest phone. But Brooks, he reveals the formula of the wise. Want less. The fastest way to feel satisfied isn't to get more stuff. It's to reduce your desire for it. It's the discipline of gratitude. And what about that third macronutrient, purpose? It's not some single destination you arrive at. It's a path, and it's defined by asking these three questions. Coherence, why do things happen the way they do? Purpose, what is the direction of my life? And the big one, significance. Does it even matter that I'm alive? Look, these are not easy questions, but the struggle to answer them is exactly what gives life its deepest meaning. Okay, so we've got our social framework, we have our emotional blueprint. The third and final pillar, principled action, is the engine that actually drives it all forward. Think of these as the rules of engagement for a life of integrity. This is the operating system for resilience when you're facing chaos. This rule from Jordan Peterson is such a powerful antidote to the poison of social media. We scroll through these perfectly curated highlight reels of other people's lives, and inevitably, we feel inadequate. He says there's only one comparison that actually matters. You today versus you yesterday. That's it. That is the only game you ever need to win. Now, for a second, let's look at the anatomy of a true champion. Roger Federer, one of the greatest tennis players of all time, won 80% of his matches. I mean, that's just a staggering figure. But look closer. He only won 54% of the points he ever played. Let that sink in. That means for nearly half of the entire game, he was losing. So how on earth do you become a legend while losing almost as often as you win? This is how Federer absolutely mastered the mindset of resilience. He understood that after a lost point, a failure, the only thing that matters is the next point. He didn't dwell on it, he let it go and refocused immediately. This just brilliantly shows that success isn't about never failing. It's about how quickly you can move on from failure. So here, we've pulled together wisdom from a global superstar, Shah Rukh Khan, and a clinical psychologist, Jordan Peterson, into 4 pillars for how you approach your work. First, diligence. Outwork not your competition, but your own potential. Treat every single job like it's your first and your last. Second, creativity. Treat it as a sacred process of the soul, not as some performance that needs applause. Third, humility. Go into every single conversation assuming that the person you're listening to knows something you don't. And finally, truth. Don't lie, especially to yourself, because every lie corrupts the very compass that's supposed to be guiding you. So, we've built our framework. We have connection, we have happiness, and we have action. But what's holding it all together? What's the ultimate context for all of this? Let's zoom out for one final, powerful perspective. Arthur Brooks asks a question that just cuts through all the noise. For what would you be willing to die today? Now, this isn't about being morbid, it's the ultimate clarifying question. And if you don't have an answer, it's a pretty good sign that you need to find one. Because what you're willing to die for is what you're truly living for. And maybe the answer lies right here, in a sentiment that's shared by both Shah Rukh Khan and Roger Federer. When you truly realize that life itself is an unearned gift, the most natural response is grace. Grace is the humility to understand that every single person you meet is fighting a hard battle you know absolutely nothing about. It's the perspective to remember, as Federer puts it, that life is always bigger than the court. And we're going to end on this crucial distinction from Arthur Brooks. This whole journey we've been talking about, it's not about reaching some perfect final state called happiness. It's a process. It's a direction, not a destination. So the question to leave you with is this: what one small step can you take today to be just a little bit happier tomorrow? You know, we've gotten so good at engineering our external world. We've built skyscrapers that touch the clouds, We've connected the entire globe. We've created a world of incredible material comfort. But for all of our outer engineering, there's a fundamental question that just hangs in the air. Have we engineered our own joy? This explainer is all about turning that science inward, to the very source of every experience you've ever had. And this quote, wow, it just cuts right to the heart of our modern dilemma, doesn't it? We have comforts today that kings and emperors of the past couldn't even dream of. We've essentially fixed the world around us. But our inner world? For so many of us, that remains a chaotic, untamed frontier. And this brings us to a huge contradiction in modern life, something we can call the comfort paradox. We've meticulously engineered our surroundings for maximum ease, yet somehow our own minds remain in a near constant state of turmoil. Just think about it for a second. The anxiety of a caveman was raw, it was immediate. Where is my next meal gonna come from? Today, our survival is so meticulously organized, right? Water comes from a tap, food from a store. And yet, that feeling inside, that anxiety, it's still there. The subject of our worry has changed. It's not a predator, it's a promotion, but the inner turmoil feels exactly the same. So if stacking up external successes isn't the final answer, if it hasn't brought that lasting joy we're all looking for, it really makes you ask a deeper question. Maybe, just maybe, we've been looking for the source of our unhappiness in all the wrong places. Well, the diagnosis is surprisingly direct. The problem isn't out there, it's that our single greatest asset, our own incredible intelligence, has somehow turned against us. I know that's a really stark thing to say, but just think about it for a moment. For most people, if you really look at it, their own thoughts and their own emotions are the #1 source of their problems. It's not the world that's the issue, it's our reaction to the world, which is generated entirely from within. You see, what happens is we get stuck in these unconscious loops, these compulsive cycles. We just react instead of consciously responding. Our thoughts, our emotions, even our physical bodies just run on this kind of autopilot, dictated by old memories and whatever is happening outside of us. The key thing is, they aren't taking instructions from you. And that right there is the very definition of being out of control. This right here, this is the perfect way to understand the problem. It's like this. We're all handed this incredible supercomputer, the human mind, and it's capable of things we can barely imagine. But here's the catch. We're given no user manual. So what do? We operate this sensitive, sophisticated instrument like a blacksmith swings a hammer, forcefully, clumsily, with zero understanding of how it actually works. And the result? It ends up creating way more problems than it solves. Okay, so to really get this, we have to pull apart two words that we often use interchangeably: pain and suffering. They are not the same thing, not at all. And this distinction is absolutely crucial. All right, look at pain. Pain is physical, right? It's a useful mechanism. It's the body's alarm system telling you, hey, don't touch that hot stove. It's a signal for self-preservation. It's temporary. But suffering is a whole different ballgame. Suffering is what your mind does with the pain. It's the story we build around it. A physical pain that happened 10 years ago is long gone, but we can still suffer from it today, simply by replaying it over and over in our minds. So what does this mean? It means the two most incredible tools a human being has, our vivid memory and our fantastic imagination, have become the very instruments of our suffering. Think about it. We use our memory to suffer what happened yesterday, and we use our imagination to suffer what might happen tomorrow. We're almost never actually suffering what is happening in this moment, right now. So, if the problem is being generated internally by a mind we don't even know how to use properly, then the solution has to be internal. too, right? This is the great pivot. This is the moment we shift from being a victim of our own psychology to becoming its master, to becoming an inner engineer. And it all boils down to this one fundamental question. Let's be honest, the world outside of you is never going to happen 100% your way. But what about the world inside you? Your thoughts, your emotions, your very experience of being alive? Who should be in charge of that? And the answer? Well, it's a total game changer. Every single experience you've ever had, joy, misery, peace, rage, it all happened inside of you. Events happen outside, sure, but the experience of that event is manufactured within. And if that's true, it means the power to determine the quality of your life rests entirely, 100% with you. This is what inner engineering is all about. And it's important to be clear, this isn't a philosophy or some belief system you have to subscribe to. It's a technology, a practical, usable method to take charge of your own inner mechanisms. It's about understanding that every feeling you have has a chemical basis in your body, and then learning how to consciously create the chemistry of peace and joy for yourself. So how does this actually work? Let's break it down. Right now, for most of us, our happiness is on a push start. We need something external, a person, a compliment, a success, to come along and push the button to make us feel joy. The goal of inner engineering is to upgrade your system to self-start, where you generate that joy from within by yourself, completely independent of what's happening on the outside. So what's the ultimate result of becoming an inner engineer? What happens when you're no longer dependent on the outside world for how you feel inside? Well, you attain something profound, a life that is truly free from fear. You see, the biggest thing that holds people back in life isn't failure. It's the fear of suffering. It's the fear of how bad they'll feel emotionally if things go wrong. But when you know with absolute certainty that no matter what happens outside, you can maintain your inner balance and joy, well, that fear just dissolves, and you can finally walk through life with the full, confident stride. And this liberation, it changes everything. You stop limiting yourself to safe, comfortable situations. You can finally take risks, step into the unknown, and explore the full depth and dimension of what life has to offer. You can truly try to scale the highest peaks of life, because whether you succeed or fail, no longer has the power to destroy your inner peace. This is the ultimate assurance, isn't it? When your way of being is determined by you and you alone, you're finally free. Free to play the game of life with full intensity and joy, without that constant nagging anxiety about the result. So let's end with one final question for you to consider. We all try to make a living. That's just a basic process. Every creature on this planet manages to do that. But you were given this magnificent human intelligence. The real question is, are you just using it to make a living? Or are you using it to create a life of profoundness and joy, engineered from within? The choice and the technology to do it are entirely yours. You know, there's a battle that defines every single moment of your life. It's not fought on a battlefield or in an office. It's fought right here, in the silent, sprawling space of your own mind. And today, we are going to learn, step by step, exactly how to win it. This isn't just some nice quote. It is the absolute fundamental truth of all human struggle and all human achievement. Think about it. Every single external challenge you face, your career, your relationships, your health, it's first processed, filtered, and fought right here, inside. And that internal battle, it never goes away. It's a lifelong campaign. So the first step to any victory is to know your enemy. And I mean really know your enemy. So to win this war, we have to identify the traitor inside our own gates. There's a voice, right? An instinct that whispers for you to surrender the moment things get hard. It's subtle, it's seductive, and man, it's endlessly reasonable with its arguments for retreat. It's time we gave that voice a name. Let's be perfectly clear about this. This is the quitting mind. It's that ancient, primal part of your brain that's wired for just one thing: survival through comfort. It's that voice that says, hey, it's okay to settle, or you've given it a good shot, you can rest now. But here's the thing. That instinct, while it was designed to protect you from, immediate harm, is a liar when it comes to growth. Its only goal is to see you defeated, to pull you back into the safety of mediocrity. Because greatness requires risk. It wants you to survive, sure, but it absolutely does not care if you thrive. This right here, this slide, lays out the two dialogues happening inside you perfectly. On one side, you have the quitting mind, always offering the easy way out, the path of least resistance. But on the other side, you have the warrior mind, and it operates on a completely different frequency. It doesn't tell you to stop when you're tired, it commands you to stop only when you are done. It doesn't see pain as a reason to quit, it sees pain as feedback, as the very road to victory, the friction you need for growth. This is not just a choice of words, people. It's a choice of operating systems for your entire life. So how do you fight the quitting mind? Well, you don't fight it with some fleeting motivation or a shot of inspiration. That stuff's like candy, a quick rush and then you crash. No, you fight it with something forged in fire, something permanent. You fight it with the armor of character. Let's talk about how to build it, piece by piece. Okay, these are the 4 pillars of an undefeated mind. First, you embrace suffering. You don't run from the painful moments, you run towards them. You have to analyze them, you ask why they hurt, because the lessons you need are buried in that pain. Second, find your why. Look, people don't burn out because of what they do. They burn out because life makes them forget why they do it. Your purpose is the fuel that burns long after that initial spark of motivation has died out. Third, build through work. Simple as that. The harder you labor, the more sweat and effort you invest, the harder it becomes to surrender what you've earned. And finally, and this is absolutely crucial, you shift your perspective. This quote right here, it just nails the ultimate weapon. 2 people can face the exact same obstacle. One sees a wall they can't possibly climb. The other sees a doorway to the next level. The difference isn't the obstacle, it's the perspective. This is the core of what we call cognitive reframing. The way you look at a situation will always affect how you perform in that situation. Your perspective is the lens through which you see reality, and it drives everything you do. And that brings us to a really important point. Talent is a gift, but character is a choice. Sure, talent might get you in the door, but it is character that will get you through the fire. It's the consistency when you're bored. It's the discipline when you're feeling uninspired. It's the absolute refusal to quit when things get hard. That is what separates the good from the truly great. All right, we've named the enemy. We've forged the armor. But armor is pretty useless unless it's tested, right? So now we enter the arena. This isn't about theory anymore. This is about the grit and the grind of actually doing it. This is where the battle is won. I want you to look at this number. Just take a moment and let the scale of it sink in. 1 in 400 trillion. These are the calculated odds of you being born. To the parents you were born to, with your unique DNA, at this exact moment in all of human history. It is a statistical absurdity. You are a living, breathing, statistical miracle. An impossibility that somehow, against all odds, became possible. So the question isn't whether you're lucky. The real question is, what are you going to do with this one impossible, precious life? How will you honor the cosmic lottery you've already won? That right there is the real arena. You know, the quitting mind loves the word someday. It will tell you to wait for more money, more time, more confidence. But that's its most clever trap. The wind might be against you, it might be raining, the conditions will never be perfect. Stop waiting for them to be. You have to get going. You have to start right now. Let's just be blunt here. Motivation is garbage. It's a fleeting emotion, a chemical reaction that comes and goes like the weather. You're never going to feel like doing the things that are tough or scary or new. So stop waiting to feel like it. True progress, the kind that builds empires and forges character, is built on the bedrock of discipline and consistency. It's all about what you do when you don't feel like doing it. That is what will define you. So this whole journey, naming the enemy, forging the armor, and taking relentless action, it's not just about changing your habits. It's about something so much deeper. It is about fundamentally changing your identity. It's about deciding on purpose who you are going to be. Now look, this is not just a list of feel-good phrases you put on your wall. This is a creed, a code to live by. This is the internal dialogue of the warrior mind, made explicit. It is a declaration of who you are, a contract you make with yourself, and you renew it every single day when you wake up. This new creed means you don't stop when you face resistance. You adapt, you overcome, you find a way to keep moving forward, because forward is the only direction that matters. Quitting is no longer an option on the table. It has been permanently removed from your very nature. Failure, that's just a data point, a stepping stone. But quitting is a final destination that you refuse to even visit. And listen to me, you will fall. You will absolutely get knocked down, that is a guarantee. But you are the only person who decides if you get back up. And you will. Every single time. You will get back up until the force that is beating you down simply gets tired of trying. And so, we end right where we began. The battle with yourself is lifelong. Every single day presents a new choice, a new fight between the quitting mind and the warrior mind. Today's victory doesn't guarantee tomorrow's. So the only question that truly matters is this: when you wake up, who will you choose to be?